Our tent site came with a slammer, and this is a grade A slammer. Fairly new, got some nice writing on it, no trash. Fantastic view, good privacy, not many bugs. That's why we call it a slammer. Yeah, that was great. All right, a couple updates from last night. One, you saw the deer. I heard something thumping around in the woods, so I went to investigate. I kind of thought it sounded like a deer, and so, yep. Still, when my light hit its eyes and they shone back, it was just kind of scary. And then Pamela, I hear her go, Henry, there's a bear, get in the tent, there's a bear, I just saw it. And I'm thinking, well, one, she's got me alarmed. Now my heart's beating very fast, but I'm also thinking it's probably a deer. And yeah, it was a different deer. But it did scare me and her, so it was exciting last night. Couldn't really update because we ended up camping right next to someone we had met at Lion's Den. Thought we'd never see him again. Found him up here on this campsite. The other update is those day-old meals we got from the bakery were incredible. It was basically a bread-filled pocket of barbecue chicken, and it was at least half a pound. They were massive, and since they were day old, they were $3 each. It's just a fantastic deal. It was amazing. All right, so wasn't any condensation on the plants in the forest, but now that we got out into the meadow, they are wet. And to avoid wet feet from the so-called Washington car wash, we got our Randy Sun waterproof socks on to protect our calluses so they don't get ripped off when our feet get soaked. So that's our strategy, and we are loving it. Also loving that.
We're very sad. We have to go through this, and we are really trying to be dry, but we can't find another way. That log looks maybe usable in this video, but it's not really, so here we go.
Well, so far, the Randy Sun's worked through the ford. Both our feet are still dry. We'll see if they soak through, as our shoes are still, wet, obviously. But initially, worked great. Pamela pointed out a clarification, which they don't promise to be waterproof if you go over the top of them, which we did in that ford. First snow patches at 2559.3. Easily traversed. I mixed some flavors together. This is peach mango strawberry lemonade. Delicious. Hey Pamela.
Yes.
I have some questions about cinnamon rolls.
Okay.
What is the gold standard for a cinnamon roll?
Oh, Pillsbury from a can. So good.
Yes.
The
Agreed.
middle one, if they've been done pretty well, but if they're a little underdone, the middle can be like kind of raw. So a variable on that.
Yeah. And how would you describe your cinnamon roll you had yesterday at the Stehekin bakery?
Well, okay, I should clarify. The one I had yesterday was the one that was like a day old, so they put it on clearance. So yesterday's was really, really good, but the one the day before, which was fresh that day one, was the best cinnamon roll I've ever had.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was better than Pillsbury. I've never had one better than Pillsbury. And that's not because I haven't had cinnamon rolls. That's because I usually don't like bakery cinnamon rolls. I don't find them to be good. I find them to be never have enough icing and often be dry. And then sometimes I maybe don't like the icing, and there's like too much bread, and there's, I don't know, they're weird, but this was amazing. It had cream cheese icing. They put the icing in between each layer, so it didn't really ever get dry. Like only like the outer ring, and it wasn't even dry. It was just like drier than the middle, but like the rest of it was like almost all of it seemed like the center. It was amazing.
Today is a very exciting day because today marks the first day in which there is no rain forecast for our trip, for a portion of trail in Washington. Every other day there's been a chance of rain.
And it has rained.
And it has rained. Although sometimes very briefly and very light. Notably, there's one notable exception. But yeah, every forecast from Stehekin to Stevens Pass shows 0% chance rain. So that's great. So we just got to the turnoff to the Cloudy Pass Junction, which is where you would turn if you wanted to go to Holden, Camp Holden, which is a Lutheran camp, which you can go to, open to the public. My friend, Mr. Flappier Bangji, the Buckle Buster, actually got married there a couple weeks ago. But this section is interesting to me because I've actually been up to Cloudy Pass and camped there on a trip 4 to 5 years ago, which as I was looking at Gaia and the topo maps and stuff, I realized that therefore I would have actually hiked this section of the PCT before. And I didn't even know I was on the PCT. On the trip out here, before we took a side trip to Image Lake and met a guy, volunteer ranger, who lives in the old fire watchtower up there, which is a very, very cool historic building. 360-degree glass windows. Everything is vintage. It's amazing. And he talked to us for like an hour. Taught us all about the old fire watching techniques and just the history of that place. And it turns out that my friend, the Buckle Buster, guy who got married and who was on this trip with me, he sent me an article from the New York Times. This guy was profiled because he spends every summer in this very remote fire watchtower. So I read his New York Times profile a couple years after I met him. It's very interesting. That is the mighty Glacier Peak. We're in the Glacier Peak Wilderness. Pamela, what do you think about it?
It's very snowy. It's very pretty. I don't want to go there.
We added some rocks to the log so Pamela can do it dry. I'll take this one.
I just went over that way and Henry's gonna come across on this log. My legs are just feeling like, I don't love logs anyway, as you've seen in other videos, but my legs are feeling very weak today, so I decided I probably shouldn't be balancing on logs if I don't have to.
A little give to it, a little wobble.
Guys, we have bad news. First of all, I'm just having a rough day. You never get excited about that. But second of all, the saga of Henry's electronics issues continues and is truly so convoluted that I think if we want to explain it, it just needs to be a separate video because it's very convoluted. But basically, all his electronics keep failing in different ways that aren't consistent. It's very confusing, and every time we test something or whatever, it gets more confusing. So anyway, long story short, Henry doesn't have headphones anymore, and unfortunately my headphones don't work in his phone.
They're working now.
His headphones are working now. It's a whole mess.
Restarting my phone changes the nature of the headphones, and Pamela's phone, nothing makes sense.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Anyway, it's kind of a mess, and it would be nice to figure out what it is. It seems like the highest common denominator, that's right? Highest common denominator is Henry's phone, but that's not always the case. He did get a refurbished phone, so maybe it could be related, still under warranty, but phone issues are, hard to deal with on trail, so I don't know. We'll have to see what we do. This is This is a bummer for sure. Well, this is one of the more intense blowdowns we've encountered. I came from like the other side of that tree. Couldn't exactly figure out where to go. Eventually ended up coming down, 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 down. Down there, and then all the way back up here to get over this huge tree, which honestly, it never looks that big in the videos, but just take my word for it, it is very large. That was a jaunt. I really like how these needles are like neon green. Ooh, focus at the end. And then they're dark green, like the new growth is really beautiful. They're also like softer, I guess, just because they're like new.
The Washington forest is just so beautiful. It's such a pleasant temperature. There's no threat of rain. The only problem is that somewhere along the line, the trail maintenance crew, somewhere yesterday, the trail maintenance crew had stopped cleaning up the trail. So we've had, I'd say, moderate blowdowns to contend with.
Well, this is a super cute bridge. Has two sides. That's always a plus.
Pamela's been plagued with tiny pine needles sticking into her. I think she should try gators. I don't know. I haven't had this problem, which is strange. Ho ho, what is this? New trail maintenance? That would be nice. We've probably walked over, I would say, definitely over 100, probably over 200 blowdowns, which would put it in the hundreds, I would say. So hopefully that continues. We'll see. She is a-flowing. Nice bridge. You know, you're walking along and suddenly a rock falls out of a tree, hits you in the head. Wouldn't that be a way to go? Well, good times have ended. Time to bushwhack around Deadfall. These trees are not so gigantic. It's probably hard to even see how big they are.